Warning, the following episode of the Blackwell podcast contains spoilers from all episodes of Life is Strange.
Hi, welcome to the Blackwell podcast, where we love Life is Strange more than Max loves to jam on her guitar. I am Joey, and I am here with Jamie and Jess.
Hi.
Hey.
And we have a very, very special guest with us today, none other than Koethe. How you doing today, Koethe?
Pretty good. How about all you guys?
Doing good.
Not bad.
Good stuff.
So, for those of you who are not familiar with his work, Koethe, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, so I'm Koethe, obviously, and you may or may not have heard my various Life is Strange inspired songs. I think I've done 14 or 15 of them now, put out like a full-length album of it, so pretty heavily into the game, you could say, I suppose.
Crazy how many tracks you've made.
Got a few more in the pipeline right now, so...
Awesome. Look forward to hearing them.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll make sure we have links up for your album so people can buy it if they're interested.
All right.
So our first question is, what got you into music?
Oh, geez. I've been into music since I was probably like 4 or 5 or something like that. My parents always used to play a whole lot of music when I was extremely young. Every car ride I'd go on with my family, they'd be playing, some various songs in the whole ride. And so I started to learn at a very young age. I would memorize the lyrics and the tunes, and then it kind of just grew from there, where I'd start to write my own lyrics and tunes with no music. And then I progressively learned to play piano when I was maybe 7 or 8, just very basic chord structures and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And kind of went on from there. So I think it was probably just mostly my family was so into music. And growing up around that, I had no real choice but to be influenced by it.
Well, awesome. We are glad you did.
So for the next question, it is, what instruments do you play and how long did it take you to learn them?
Oh, jeez. I play a little bit of just about everything. The only instruments that I can't, at least kind of play are brass instruments. So, horns, trumpets, trombones, things like that. I just cannot play at all. I play piano and guitar are probably my 2 main ones. I play, a very small amount of drums and obviously anything that's similar to guitar. I can play, banjos or mandolins or bass. Things like that. A little bit of just general percussion. That's probably a little less just because I don't have quite as much of a need for it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's lucky that you don't play brass, because there's always there's brass, voice sounds on keyboards and that. So
Exactly. There's some pretty realistic ones too. So of the ones not to play, that's a pretty easy one to come across. I think guitar is probably the hardest to emulate digitally because it always sounds super, super fake.
Mm-hmm.
Right then, moving on. So how did you find out about Life is Strange, and what was your initial impression of it?
Oh, gosh. I think I saw it right around the time episode 1 came out, and then towards the beginning of last year, I want to say it was a little pop-up on Steam. At the time, I just thought, this is another, choice-based Telltale-esque game. And I didn't really follow a whole lot of it until just before the release of episode 3, and I started watching a Let's Play of it, and I got through halfway through episode 3, and I decided, screw it, I'm just going to go buy the game and play it myself. Because it was getting, interesting and pretty heavy at that point. And so going from that point, that was where I really got into it, and once I started playing it, I was extremely immersed in it. Obviously, I got pretty into it from that point onward and have been really ever since then.
Oh, awesome. So, you got immersed into it and all that. What is it, do you think, exactly about Life is Strange over other video games that motivated you to make a tribute album?
Honestly, I don't even know if it was as much of a conscious choice. When I first started, I didn't even intend to make more than one or two songs, which I guess just playing the game and mostly it was the universe, the world, the characters, everything about it, the environment, and just the tone of the game itself was, I guess, not even consciously, but just very subconsciously, very motivating, very inspiring. There's a lot of depth in that world. There's a lot of emotion in that world. And typically the way I've always, handled very strong emotions has been creatively. I've always tried to make stuff out of it. And so I think that the first song I did was Price, and that was just after the end of episode 4. And there was just a whole lot of strong emotion in that episode, obviously, what with the the Rachel sequence and obviously the very ending of it as well. But even in earlier episodes, I think the first moment that I realized, like, wow, this game is not what I expected it was going to be was just after you get home to Chloe's house the first time after meeting her. And up till then, the game is not necessarily super lighthearted, but it doesn't have any immensely downer moments up until then. Right. And you get home and you just see that here's this person who's just overwhelmingly sad. Their life has pretty much fallen apart and gone to shit. And that was not the character or I guess type I was expecting for Chloe. I was expecting her to kind of be that upbeat, punky girl the whole time. Very, edgy type person. And so seeing her in that sequence just start smoking, just kind of fall back on her bed with that just depressed look on her face, was like, oh wow, this is a lot heavier than I thought it would be. And so it was stuff like that that really gave me a lot of feeling, and I guess that was just the way that I tried to get that out and tried to process that internally for myself, was making that music.
So Price was the first song that you wrote?
Yep.
You said?
Correct.
Nice. Could you take us through the process of writing a song?
Oh yeah, sure. It kind of varies between songs. Sometimes, like in the case of Price, I actually had a good amount of just the vocal melody in mind first, and then from that I kind of built a general like chord progression. Mm-hmm. And then I worked out like, okay, here's the rhythm I want to go with, here's how I want the song to kind of flow from there. I want it to, build up progressively, get a little more intense as it goes on. Other times I'll actually come up with all the instrumental first and then start to hear a vocal melody from that. And then once I have the vocal melody in mind, I'll try to find words that I feel accurately describe. Well, this song, it feels to me like it's a sad song. And so what's the best way I can reflect that vocally, or what's the best way I can reflect that lyrically? So sometimes it kind of comes from the lyric side first. Other times it comes from having, the music and a concept of what I want the song to be about, and then kind of reverse engineering it from there. Mm-hmm. Then it's just a matter of recording everything out. Usually they start off pretty rough, laptop microphone quality recordings. And I'll listen to that endlessly on loop when I'm driving to work or something like that, and I'll try to hum out melodies to myself while I'm doing that, and then progressively I'll kind of write in the specifics from there.
And you do like all of the instrumental and all of the like vocal harmonies and stuff like that. You do that yourself, don't you?
Correct. Yeah, I do the bulk of the recording and writing myself. I had a little bit of help on Take It All Back. It was with some of the guitar lines, because I was having a real difficult time coming up with something that I was happy with there. And so thankfully a fellow Life is Strange fan, Edward, was able to help me out. So that was good. And wow. He's credited on that track as well. So that's one of the things I love about the community in general, is just this sense of like contribution and this sense of really togetherness that everyone has over this. It's one of the really awesome things, I think, that people are willing to work together on things. People are always asking, hey, can I use this for this project? Or hey, would you be willing to do this for this project? And there's a lot of awesome communication in that, which I think is really, really fun in general.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we too can speak to the incredible nature of the community. So it's really cool that people are willing to come together to help you write your music, and
Exactly. I mean, and you got to think, like, how many other games have inspired, like, a podcast, for example, specifically about the game. And so it's just stuff like that really, I love how passionate the community is about a lot of this stuff, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, completely, like, overwhelming to see the community, like, grow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great, then. So, you do have an album specifically made for Life is Strange inspired music. So why did you call your album Time?
I guess that was overarchingly what I wanted it to be about. Was it's that very early line in the game, little slices of time, little pieces of time, and I guess that even though that was obviously from our not so favorite character, I think that is a powerful type of image there, and I think that that's sort of how I view the songs. That these little snippets of emotion, kind of captured in a sense that, they're not necessarily a progressive, concept album or a story. They're more these little snippets, these little pieces of time that tell a small portion of what was happening, and that's kind of why I called it Time. It's reflective, I guess, of just what they are. Obviously, that and the theme of time travel, time spent apart, time spent together, and the significance of that time. So time was a very powerful, I felt, theme throughout the game, and so it just seemed like a logical, appropriate, fitting title.
Mm-hmm. So we next have the quintessential question. I'm pretty sure, given the nature of a lot of your songs, we know the answer, but B-A-E Bay or B-A-Y Bay?
Oh gosh, I am B-A-E Bay pretty much all the way. I initially, just after, and don't get me wrong, the whole time leading up to that, I remember I was reading all the speculative theories about, if you have to sacrifice Chloe, is that going to be where the story goes? That you have to sacrifice Chloe or sacrifice Arcadia Bay? And the whole time leading up to that, I was like, no, I am 100% sacrificing Arcadia Bay, not even going to blink, not even going to think about it. And that was one of the most amazing things that I loved about that sequence, is they did such a great job, and Ashley Birch and Hannah Tell did such a fantastic job bringing that scene to life, that when the choice came, I actually had to pause and think about it, because they really did add just a great amount of character, and the way that Chloe was clearly feeling at that sequence, I loved that so much, because it really made me falter for a minute and really consider, like, what would this character want? What would Chloe want me to do? What would the right thing to do be in this situation? And I still ended up sacrificing Arcadia Bay, but it was the fact that it made me stop and think about it that I really loved. And then I immediately afterwards I loaded up the most recent checkpoint and went back and watched the other ending. And I was hoping, like, because I remember I'd seen at the before the release of episode 5 that there was the speculated ending hospital. Mm-hmm. And so I remember thinking, well, maybe she's fine. Maybe she gets shot and then we're going to flash forward and she's going to be, in the hospital totally okay, or like half paralyzed or whatever, but it won't be like she's dead, officially completely dead. And right. The more the scene went on, the more I was like, oh, this is not the way it's going to go. And then as soon as Max started crying, I was like, oh geez, I made a horrible mistake. And then as soon as we flashed back to the proper present time and, Max was on the cliffside in her black funeral attire, I was like, nope, not even. This was a mistake. This was 100% a bad choice. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that I made my canon choice the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That ending was rough.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And the music throughout that ending, but also throughout the whole game, was absolutely on point. It was so spectacular. Their choice of soundtrack was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the original composed stuff was great too. The there were a couple times when I would start up the game and I would just leave it running on the main menu because I loved that ambient menu song. It was very, very rustic, very nice sounding, very natural.
Right.
All right. So, is there a character within the game that you relate to the most, and if so, why?
Probably, honestly, I relate the most to probably Max, just because at least in the beginning of the game, she's very, very quiet, very soft-spoken, not exactly the most social person. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of always how I've been. I've always been a little bit, secluded, I guess you'd say. I'm very antisocial as a person. And so she's probably the one that I related to the most. And that nature of, really wanting to have the ability to kind of be a little more in control of conversations and situations like she ends up becoming with her power is definitely something that I can, see the appeal in. So I guess probably Max would be the one that I relate to the most, just in terms of her kind of soft-spoken, hipster, quiet nerdiness.
Well, it's cool that, despite all that, you still put yourself out there and made the album, making the music that you are. I know that can be very daunting, very hard thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things that I related to, especially with her characters. There's the one sequence where she says that one of the reasons she loves her photography is that it kind of puts a buffer between her and the world, and that's very much how I felt about my music a lot of the time, is that it's kind of a even though it's obviously a very large portion of myself and I put a lot of my heart and soul into it, there's still kind of like a distance, but especially when you're writing stuff influenced by certain emotions or certain thematic sets, you kind of are putting a bit of distance between your work and yourself. Almost, you're saying, well, here's this part of me, but it's not the entire me, it's just this one little section of me, and so it's almost like a way to test the waters and get yourself out there, but still have a little bit of distance between you and the thing you're putting out there for people to see. You don't actually have to, especially when it's on the internet, you don't have to be there to see everyone's reactions while they're watching it, or awkwardly sit there while they listen through to it, that's always one of the hardest things to do, is when I play my songs like finished audio, like MP3s for people, and just sitting there and looking over at them, watching their face while it goes through and being like, oh geez, do they like it? Do they hate it? This part, was that too loud? Did that sound too awkward to them? And, worrying about it. So it's a lot easier, I think, to just throw it out on the internet and forget about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So you kind of mentioned this, how much you love the soundtrack in the game. So it's probably appropriate to ask, what is your favorite song from the soundtrack?
I would say probably my favorite one, my absolute favorite is Obstacles. Just because I think that was the moment that I want to say I realized 100% that the game was something really, really special, was the very ending of episode 1. I loved a lot of the stuff leading up to the end of episode 1, but there was something really just uniquely atmospheric and kind of magical almost about that ending. It's very, it's a very supernatural thing. It's very dream sequence-esque almost. And so that moment stood out for me as being the time that I was like, oh man, this game is actually really something special. This game is something that, I don't think games have done before. I don't think stories in general have kind of delved into this territory quite like this before. Spanish Sahara is probably a close second, but I think, and it's funny, is Obstacles is still a very difficult one for me to listen to because it is the ending song in my chosen ending, and so to me it's kind of a bittersweet song to listen to because it has that awesome, I love this song so much from the intro, it's such an emotional, powerful piece, but then it also reminds me endlessly that oh yep, it's over, the ride's over. So it's difficult to go and listen to that at sometimes for that reason.
And is it difficult to listen to Spanish Sahara for the opposite reason, knowing about it's played during Chloe's funeral?
It kind of is. There's a point for me where I'm in such a state of denial about that ending, where I'm like, oh yeah, that was such a great ending, and every time I think of it, I just imagine oh yeah, she gets there and she smiles at the end, and then she goes home and saves Chloe with the photo, and so it's all okay. Forget it. No, we don't need to be sad about it. So I refuse to believe the negativity on that one. So it's not quite as bad. But the first time I watched that ending was pretty overwhelmingly emotional for me, because they did a great job. Like I said, timing everything up with the cut scene was just amazingly well done. That one especially was so. The endings of every episode were really phenomenal in terms of their music choice in general. Like they always had those like extended little musical outros, and they were so atmospheric. It was really great.
Yeah, they did a great job with it. Do you think you're going to do a cover of Obstacles anytime soon?
You know, I've been thinking about doing one. The thing I'm afraid of is I don't want to just do a perfect, you know, like 1-to-1 cover. I would want to try and do something a little bit unique with it, to, you know, put my own spin on it, I guess. But I'm not quite sure what I would do that wouldn't sound too excessive or just like too much of a, oh yeah, you just covered it exactly like it is and just tried to. I don't think I could top the actual original version, and so. I guess to me, I would want to try and make it. Well, it's not trying to compete with it. It's not trying to be that song. It's trying to be its own, you know, twist on that song. So I've been trying to think about, you know, well, what could I do with that? So I may possibly do one. We'll have to see, I guess, if I am able to come up with anything that sounds unique enough and not too derivative.
Right. Well, if you are able to get one out, let us know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be sure to post it up for everyone.
So what musicians do you listen to, you know, that you draw inspiration from in writing music, and not just Life is Strange, the people that have been on the soundtrack, but just in general?
You know, I listen to a lot of different things. For the stuff I've been writing recently, it's kind of been a lot of like, the Fray, Mumford & Sons has been a big one, but one that has been like a big influence just in terms of how I write music overall, was like the first couple of Muse albums. I'm just an enormous fan of. They're nothing like the you know, Life is Strange music, the stuff that I'm currently writing, but in terms of just general composition and how I think of, like, you know, layering various instruments on top of each other, harmonies especially, they've probably been some of the biggest influences for me. As their first, I think, 2 or 3 albums have been pretty inspirational to me, just in terms of like learning to write. That was kind of what I tried to emulate a lot of the time, was that sort of sound.
Right.
I mean, they've got really good songs like Knights of Sidonia, Uprising, Resistance. I mean,
I think Plug-in Baby has for the longest time probably been one of my favorite songs of all time. So they're good band.
Yeah, they really are.
So going back to video games, what other games do you play, and do they have a similar or lesser impact to Life is Strange?
Oh gosh. You know, honestly, ever since I finished Life is Strange, pretty much I have not been able to get anywhere near as emotionally invested in like heavily story-driven games. I can enjoy them, and I still prefer story-driven games in general. I played a little bit of Fallout 4. After that, I played some. I play a lot of like Bethesda games in general. So all the Fallouts, all the Elder Scrolls series. I just started playing Elder Scrolls Online pretty recently with a friend of mine. But in general, like, I tried going back and playing some of the other Telltale games that I hadn't played, and like Tales from the Borderlands is one of them. And like, don't get me wrong, I love that game. I think it's spectacular. But like, for me personally, comparatively speaking, it doesn't hit it doesn't resonate quite as well. It doesn't hit the same emotional highs that Life is Strange did. And it's the same for a lot of things. I played a lot of the Witcher 3 during, like, early on when Life is Strange came out, and I found the more I played Life is Strange, I was like, I really like The Witcher still, but I don't feel nearly as strongly about the characters. There was just such an emotional connection in Life is Strange. I think part of that may just be due to the fact that it's a very in spite of the fact that it has, time travel mechanics and some supernatural elements to it, it still feels extremely realistic and extremely grounded, like a very real depiction of that particular time of life. And so I think that was why I kind of related to it so much and was so drawn to it, is that it feels so relatable in spite of those more, fantastical elements.
Especially with all the heavy themes in the game as well.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Right. So, kind of going back towards your music, why do you choose the genre of music that you play in your album?
It started off that I was just trying to capture kind of the same feel as Life is Strange. I've done a lot of different kinds of music throughout my time working on songs. I guess that the reason I stuck with this so heavily, and the reason that I was kind of so happy to keep making music, in addition to the fact that obviously I was just very influenced too by the game, is that I feel like it fits my emotional state a little better than some of the more heavy stuff that I used to work on a lot more, like modern rock, Foo Fighters or Muse type stuff, Breaking Benjamin, things like that. And it was a lot heavier, and it didn't necessarily fit my voice, and it didn't necessarily fit my emotional state. And so I think that was another one of the things I liked about the game, was that it introduced me more to, I had heard a lot of indie or folk type music before, but I'd never really connected with it as much. And this was sort of a backdoor way to connect to it, I guess, in a sense. And so finding that was just really enjoyable for me. And that's kind of the reason I've really stuck with it and kept making that particular type of music, is that I guess it just feels like it's a good fit for me. It feels very comfortable and enjoyable for me making those songs. I'm always really happy when I hear a completed piece of mine. I guess I get proud of it at a point, whereas when it was other styles of music, I'd be like, I like this, but it feels like I'm writing this for someone else almost. Like, this would sound better if it was being performed by the band I'm imagining it being performed by. Oh, it's a Muse style song. This would sound better being played by them than me, kind of thing. Whereas I feel like I've reached a stage where I'm happy, more happy at least, with kind of what I'm doing. I guess I got my own little area that I feel confident and comfortable with. And so that's kind of why I've stuck with that particular style in general. And I try to put sometimes they'll be a little bit softer, or sometimes they'll be a little bit heavier, but in general. So I found that I guess I like to do some more stripped down, softer, more natural sounding stuff. It works better with, I guess, who I am and how I can perform.
I think too, like when you're doing something that you can put your heart into, it really
absolutely.
Like, it's going to give you better quality of work.
Exactly. Well, especially when you have such a strong set of emotions behind what you're putting your heart into, too. You have such a strong place you're coming from. It's a lot easier. It's a lot, I guess, more productive when you're writing something that is strongly emotionally impactful to you than it is to just try I'm going to try and write a song that's just catchy. That's it. That's the whole purpose for this song to exist. You can turn out some great stuff there, but I think you're always going to come up with better stuff with music and with a lot of art in general. Anything really. When you're really coming from a place where you have genuinely strong feelings for it, it's kind of that's going to show up in the finished product, I think.
And going off of that, what episode do you think, episode of Life is Strange, do you think impacted you the most emotionally?
Oh, jeez. I probably 4, just because of the obviously the intro to 4 got really, really dark, and then the finding Rachel sequence was especially sad. Although early on, like I said, I think that some of those sequences in episode 1, where you just some of the spending time with Chloe sequences were actually also like almost equally emotional. When you first get to her house and you realize just how bad her life is, or when you're out on the train track / junkyard and you're finally reconnecting with her, and there's that little spark of like happiness in her. It was things like that. They were subtle, but they were very. Those are the things that I guess come back to me and kind of haunt me afterwards. After the initial emotional power of scenes like finding Rachel have have kind of worn off after you're okay. Yeah, I'm past that. The ones that come back to me and that are, constantly in my mind are those ones, and that persisting, continuing connection between Max and Chloe, but also the just emotional trauma in general, I guess you'd call it, the emotionally charged moments in general.
Well, speaking of emotionally charged, what was your reaction when you were featured by the Life is Strange channels?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of when I first heard about that. I work night shifts currently, and so I got the message from the Life is Strange Twitter account. It was on Twitter, and they said, "Hey, we would like to share your song price for Fan Art Friday. Would that be okay with you?" And when I first got it, I was like, "Is this like a fan group or what is this?" I thought I'd been featured by a couple of like the smaller fan groups, and I posted my stuff on the Reddit, and it's gotten a good number of likes. So I assumed like, oh, this is probably like an unofficial fan group. And then I went and looked at it, and I saw the number of followers they had, and I was like, wait, is this the official group? Is this the official account? And it was. And I was like freaking out over that because I was so shocked that they had actually noticed my stuff. Just in general, it's been so the response in general has been overwhelming, just shocking to me. But to know that the actual creators of the content that inspired mine took note of it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we like this enough to actually want to show it to people." That was extremely, extremely like honoring to me. It was extremely made me feel really, really happy. So I was extremely ecstatic when I found out about that, and I was like grinning the whole rest of the day. And so,
well, congrats on that.
Yeah,
oh yeah, thank you very
really
much.
Happy for you.
Congrats on all the shares you guys have gotten from them as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's crazy.
That's pretty awesome stuff on your end.
Okay, so before we move on to the fan questions, to those who want to write and compose music, what advice would you give to them?
Oh, jeez. I really probably the biggest advice I would give is just don't feel discouraged by other people. Don't quit if it's something you're passionate about. Don't let other people tell you how you should or shouldn't do the things you love. And this is true, I think, for music, but also for really anything. When I went to college for music, and I was told repeatedly that I didn't stack up compared to where I should have been, or that the way I was composing music wasn't good enough, basically. And and that's discouraging if you hear people that are your peers or your superiors even telling you that like you're not doing it right. But if it's something you're really passionate about and you really believe in what you're doing, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that get in the way of what your ultimate vision is, because that's the reason that I think art is so beautiful and is so powerful, is that it's not just something you can create for other people, but it's also a part of yourself. And there's a part of that that's it's just not worth compromising who you are, compromising your vision for something just to appease others. So I guess don't give up, don't be afraid, no matter what happens. Just stick to your guns, stick to your vision, stick to what you love and what you want, and don't be afraid to try your best to prove people wrong, I guess.
Well, that is really good advice.
Yeah, it really is.
So we have fan questions now, and our first is from Stefan. And he wants to know, are you mainly focusing on Life is Strange songs, or, will you plan on composing original songs in the future, like not based off of Life is Strange?
I've actually got it's similarly, it's like similar genre, but I've actually got a song that I'm working on now, alongside of my next Life is Strange one that is not Life is Strange influence. This is kind of like a personal, I guess more personally influenced one. So I'm definitely going to probably at some point start to branch off into more personal stuff. I've got at least one or two songs that I'm working on influenced by other games. I know one of the I've seen a lot of people comment and suggesting like, oh, you should make a song based on The Last of Us. And so I've got one that I'm working on based on that. It's in extremely, extremely early stages, just, ideas in my head right now, basically. But I'll definitely eventually be branching off into other things as well. Honestly, I'll probably continue to make Life is Strange inspired songs for a while, though, just because I think there's just so much. There's still a lot of emotion left for me in that game, at least, that I guess I still feel I can adequately channel for that type of music and for those sorts of themes and inspirations.
Especially if they come out with another game like Life is Strange.
Absolutely. If they come out with anything similar, like even their
season
next
2,
game,
yeah.
I don't know if their next how emotionally heavy their next game is going to be, but if there's any, I'm definitely going to be checking it out, and so that could potentially be it. Like you said, if there's a season 2, then I'll be pretty much all over getting inspiration from that.
Great. So our next question is from Ben, and he wants to know, will you ever do a full version of the Beans song?
I've actually thought about doing that. I was just talking with my fiance about doing that the other day. If I ever wanted to do a full version of that. And I was thinking, like, well, where could I really go from what I have currently? Because if I did continue it, I would want it to be, equally silly. I wouldn't want it to just be like an obligatory rehash of the first part and then another chorus and then like a solo and then another chorus and that's the end. I would want it to at least have some element of like silliness and funness to it, like the short version has. So I've been toying around with some various ideas, and I may eventually. I just got the email that the download limit on my SoundCloud for that song had been hit, so I will probably have to put that song up on my YouTube eventually. So for that, I may end up making a full version of it. I'll have to see if I'm able to come up with anything I feel is befitting of it.
Well, looking forward to see it if it ever comes out.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so our next question is from Jason, and they would like to know, why haven't you made a song about the "Go Fuck Yourself" line?
That's actually another one that I did consider. I had a little almost like a electro pop styled one, and it was called Retro Zone. So I've been fiddling around with that. The problem I had with that is I didn't have enough lines to use for it. I didn't have even the Beans one. I had to kind of just wing the verse. It's not really necessarily related to Frank. So I was afraid I didn't want to make something too unrelated to the characters. I always when I make those, I don't like to just like phone in the lead up to the chorus necessarily. If I can come up with something, I may actually still put that one out eventually. But right now, it's pretty rough. There's not a whole lot to it. So I've thought about it. I've considered it at least.
So our next question is from Eric, and he wants to know, what was your reaction when Hannah Tell listened to your music and liked it?
Honestly, that was such a shock to me because someone posted that initially on my YouTube video. They're like, "Oh, by the way, congratulations on Hannah Tell liking your song." And I was like, "What? I never saw that. What are you talking about?" And they sent me a link to it. I was so shocked. I was like, "Oh, I had no idea that like anyone involved with the game even heard my stuff, much less one the main characters voiceover artists." And so that was awesome for me because the music she's done is phenomenal too. If anyone listening hasn't checked out Hannah Tell's music, definitely do it because it's pretty spectacular. And so getting that sense of like validation from someone who was involved with the game and was really, really talented with making vaguely similar styled indie folk type music was really fantastic for me. It was a very awesome experience just seeing that she enjoyed it.
She's really nice too.
Oh yeah, she's been just an awesome person in the community in general. She's been ridiculously kind.
For sure. So your music is featured on the game All Wounds by Destiny Smasher, and Sean wants to know, how did this come about, and are you enjoying the direction they are taking the project in?
I was actually looking through my history of conversations with that. What ended up happening was way before there was ever even the visual novel being made. I was a fan of the story, the All Wounds fan fiction. Along that one, along with pretty much all of Rowan Red 81's material, have been probably some of my favorite stories that have been written as far as fan fiction goes. Mm-hmm. And so I remember Destiny Smasher had announced that he was making a trying to convert this into like an interactive story as opposed to just a fan fiction. And so I was following the All Wounds Tumblr account, I think it was. And at one point he had posted, "Oh yeah, thanks to my friend for introducing me to this Koethe music. It's inspired by Life is Strange. It's so so cool. It's definitely what I want to inspire me to keep working on my fan creation." And then sometime later he had messaged me like, "Hey, would you be okay with letting me use one of your songs?" And it kind of went from there where, okay, well, sure, what do you want to use? And so then I ended up sending over like all the instrumental versions of my songs, and I made a couple of original little background pieces here and there for it as well. And it's so far, I'm loving the way it's going. I know that Destiny Smasher's been very busy with personal life stuff lately, but so far what I've seen of it is phenomenal. The design of it, the writing itself obviously is awesome, but the art design in general is really great, and just the whole way that it comes together. It's really cool to see a piece go from strictly text based to kind of this fully fleshed out experience, which it's really, and it's awesome to be a part of that as well. So I'm definitely very happy with the direction it's taken, how it's looking so far.
Yeah,
awesome.
Great. Okay. So our final question is from Miles, and they would like to know: will there be a second CD, a physical copy with your more recent Life is Strange songs?
There will probably maybe be a second one. I know I'm probably going to put out after this next song. I'm going to compile the I think it's 5 or 6 songs that I've done since I put out the album. I'm going to compile those into like a digital only EP, so I can actually get them all up on like Spotify under one album as opposed to their own individual singles. So I'll probably do that, and then I would definitely like to. I'd definitely be very interested in it. I'll have to see if I'm able to come up with a. I imagine over time, eventually I will be. I'm not really sure the time frame though. But over time, yeah. Once I get, I guess, that appropriate, 11 or 12 songs compiled again, then yeah, I'll probably it would definitely be something I would consider doing if people are, still interested in it at that point. I can't do it now because the platform I use to sell the physical CDs, I actually don't have any of the physical CDs myself. They're basically made on demand, and so I don't have to pay anything. But the company also takes a pretty significant cut of that, and so I would have to charge like the same amount that I'm charging now for like half the songs, and I wouldn't feel okay doing. I feel weird charging for my stuff in general a lot of the time, and so I wouldn't feel right doing that for just the 6 songs. So, and I wouldn't want to just fill it with nonsense to make up for that. So once I get, I guess, a appropriate number of songs that I feel are, good enough to be on a proper physical release, then yeah, that would definitely be something I would be interested in doing. And if people are, people want it, if people are interested in it themselves.
I mean, personally, I'd be interested in it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you'd have a pretty decent turnout for that. So we hope you keep writing and put a second album out. And so that's all for our questions, and we want to thank everybody that submitted in to us. And last week we teased about a special little surprise for Koethe fans and, for the fans that will be after this episode, who haven't heard of Koethe yet. So we are proud and absolutely ecstatic to have Koethe perform Price for us. So Koethe, we're going to mute ourselves and turn it over to you.
All right. I'm going to switch over to my mixer, so I will be out of ability to hear you for the duration of the song probably. But I will see you after the song.
Alrighty.
All right, great.
I swore the other day that I'd whisk you away from all of this pain, from all of this pain in you. I've seen you turn around, I've seen you hit the ground from all of this pain, from all this inside of you. And I don't know how long the things will stay this way, and I don't know what's wrong or how to fix this place. I know some things can't change, but I want you to know you will never be alone. Alone, alone. I'd give my hand to you, I'd give my life for you. It's all that I knew, it's all that I ever knew. As if you had to ask, I'd turn this world to glass, the least I could do. I can't keep my eyes off of you. Go back, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. And I don't know how long the things will stay this way, and I don't know what's wrong or how to fix this place. I know some things can't change, but I want you to know you will never be alone. Been miles away, blue wings and hurricanes, you know what I'd say, the price that I'd pay for you. You dream of better days, eternal autumn haze. My life's been so strange, but that's just alright with you. Go back, go back, go back, go back, and go back, go back, go back. And I don't know how long the things will stay this way, and I don't know what's wrong or how to fix this place. I know some things can't change, but I want you to know you will never be alone. You will never be alone. Some things may fade from here, will last forever, dear, so know that you will never be alone.
Fucking bravo. Jesus.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
That was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God. Chills and tears, man.
Yeah.
Well, if that's
Wow.
the second album, you know, you should definitely do like an acoustic album, because my word.
I've actually thought about doing like for my YouTube channel, like a couple like live playthroughs with friends or something like that. So depending, I'll have to see which ones I I guess are the most popular for me to do. I think it would be probably Price and Storm, I would imagine, to be the next one, but that'd be interesting to do, I suppose.
And that performance was just amazing.
Multiple
words.
Yeah, I don't know. Bravo, man. It's hard to say anything just beyond that. That was
Yeah, just like speechless right now.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm glad you guys liked it. I was practicing it in the time leading up to here, so glad it turned out halfway decently at least.
And that song's on iTunes, right, for 99 cents? So
Correct, yes.
if anybody wants to go buy that, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing.
It really is.
And
Also,
we'll have
Spotify in my channel for free if you're interested in that, if you don't feel like paying for it. So
we'll have all those links up where your Bandcamp, where you can find it on iTunes, etc. I'm all about, supporting fan artists, supporting artists and stuff. So if you got some change to spare, I highly recommend buying the album. But Koethe, it's awesome that you're, putting it out there for free as well.
Mm-hmm.
So wow, that Koethe, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was awesome to be on here. It was really cool.
We do have an announcement that we need to make, which we probably should have done this before because I don't know, there's nothing we could say that could top that performance. But we are pleased to announce that we are joining up with lifeisstrangefans.com. We're all like really, really just taken aback at the work that Chris put into the site, what all he's done with it, and we think this will be a good move. So what that means, we're still going to be maintaining our own YouTube channel, Twitter. We'll still have our own Hotmail address, etc. Our site will now be hosted through lifeisstrangefans.com, so you'll find all of our stuff on there now. I think the biggest difference other from URL change is that all of our submissions now, you'll have to be a member of Life is Strange Fans to see what is submitted to us. All of our winners are, of course, going to be, you can just view them because they come from a lot of different other things and we don't want to take traffic away. Yeah. So it's also now easier to submit stuff to us. You can do it on the site. So if you want to see, all the submissions that we get that either don't make it onto the show or, will eventually make it on, but we want to get it up and ready, you can do so on there. So that's our new home, lifeisstrangefans.com.
They even have a chat room, so we occasionally pop in there, so you can always talk to the fans there, talk to us, all that nonsense. But still, it's really nice website. You should check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we probably should end by talking about what's going to happen next week.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that is, we have another interview with Cissy Jones, who is known for playing Joyce Price in Life is Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we are now accepting questions for her. She's also done work on Firewatch. She played as Delilah on Firewatch and some other games too. But get those questions into us. Man, Koethe, thank you again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. It was fantastic to be on here. I was very happy to be offered a chance to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just still blown away by the performance. Oh boy.
Oh, and we just hit 2,000 subscribers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So thank everybody for that.
Yeah. We'll probably be doing something special for that soon, so
Hint,
keep an
hint.
eye out for that.
Yeah.
And we'll announce that on Twitter, Tumblr, and Life is Strange Fans. So
Right.
yeah, keep your eyes out in the near future. And that acoustic rendition of Price is a Blackwell podcast exclusive. So again, Koethe, not only for the amazing performance, but letting it be our, exclusive to the show.
Definitely.
Follow Koethe. I believe your Twitter handle. We'll have this all up too, but it is at Koethe.
Yep, pretty much everything of mine is either Koethe or Koethe. If I made a Koethe account and then forgot the password, so I had to make a second one. That's the reason that some of them have two Koethes in there. Is actually because I created a first one and then forgot it. So little fun tidbit there.
So support Koethe in all of his ventures. We definitely will. I mean, I've already bought a copy of your album.
I'm saving up for one. So.
But again, a million times thanks for being here, and we will see you all next week.
We'll see everyone next week.
Yep.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bigfoots.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.